MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell could be in big trouble in his home state of Minnesota, where production for MyPillow is based, if a new piece of legislation actually becomes law. Because this new piece of legislation would make it a criminal offense to spread lies, which includes lying about the validity of voting in the state. Now, there's a couple caveats here. It doesn't outlaw all lies about an election, so pretty much up until 60 days prior to an election, a guy like Mike Lindell would be able to go out there and say all of the crazy things that they want to say about how we should melt down the voting machines and turn them into prison bars because you can't trust the software. So those lies would be okay until you hit that 60-day before an election mark, at which point they would become misdemeanor offenses. But there's another caveat to that as well. You would have to, the state would have to bring charges against somebody, prove that the intent was, of course, to disenfranchise voters. And that might actually be the point where Mike Lindell doesn't get held criminally liable for the election conspiracies that he continues to this day to spread. The legislation is necessary. And while I disagree with those caveats, I think that's kind of a bit ridiculous. Like an election lie is an election lie, it doesn't matter when it happens. Their goal is to prevent misinformation from disenfranchising voters. And we have seen people across the country, a lot of Trump supporters, prosecuted for this in recent years. You know, the robocalls from Jacob Wall and Jack Berkman, trying to convince people that either you're not eligible to vote or maybe your polling place may have changed, so don't go to the place you usually go. Whatever it is, whatever kind of disinformation is being spread, and I'm not saying that's what Berkman and Wall did, I'm just using those as examples of misinformation that would be prohibited. That's pretty much what they're trying to stop. They do not want false information about who is eligible, what you need in order to show up to the polls, or where a person votes. They want to stop all of that because that has become a common practice. Trying to confuse voters by feeding them misinformation, but posing it as a possibility rather than a fact. See, that's where they kind of skirt the line, and by they, I of course do mean Republican operatives. They skirt the line by not exactly saying you are ineligible to vote, but by saying you might be ineligible to vote. This law, of course, would put an end to that, as long as you could prove that the intent was to stop people from voting. Now, in Mike Lindell's case, his intent is actually not, I believe, to prohibit people from voting or to prevent people from voting. Lindell has even said, we have to overwhelm the algorithms by all showing up to vote, so he's probably in the clear, which, in my opinion, is a bit unfortunate, because the lies that he spreads still damage the sanctity of voting here in the United States. He has cast doubt on the systems, and whether he intends to or not, we've actually seen hard evidence that shows that some Republicans, mostly the MAGA folks, actually do sit out now because they believe these lies that the system can't be trusted. So even though they're hurting their own people, if that's not his intent, he can't be held criminally liable for it, which again is a little weird because you still have the same effect, but since you didn't mean to do it, it was just accidental, suddenly you can get away with it. And if it's more than 60 days prior to an election, you get away with it no matter what, even if it is your intent. Again, the law is necessary. It's very clumsily written, so hopefully they go back and make some addendums to it, because as it stands right now, it's probably not going to do anything at all to stop voter suppression. And more importantly, it won't stop any of the election lies that Trump and his followers have been pushing. Hi everyone, this here is little Athena, and Athena would like to know why you haven't subscribed to Fair and Balanced yet, so please, don't let Athena down. Subscribe today.